Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lip Service, a podcast of our coming out stories. I am your host, Pam Myers, and I am here today with Reverend Liz Luoma. Thanks for joining, Liz, on the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
Supporting and sharing our community is very important, and even more so now.
Yes. Oh, yes. Absolutely. And I skipped right over my pronouns, and I wanted to introduce you. I wanted to give you a chance to say yours. My pronouns are she, her, they. What are yours? How do you like to be addressed?
Well, I'm happy with she, her, they, them. And I have taken the liberty to combine them. So it's either Shay or it's Shem. So,
Shame, Jim. I love that. Uh, now you are, for the listeners out there, you're coming to us from beautiful city of Santa Fe, correct?
that's correct.
Yes, yes. And you've been there for how long?
It'll be 3 years and 3 months, I believe.
Oh, yeah, awesome. Awesome. Okay, so tell us, we're here to talk about your coming out journey. How did it happen for you? Obviously not in Santa Fe, well before, I think.
Yes, well before.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
The beginning of time. And I would say that the beginning of time was being 17 years old and um, falling in love with Marcia. And I didn't really, I mean, I remember actually going as a freshman in
Mhm.
high school. People would say, well, stay away from Terry and Roberta because, they're lesbians. And I'm like, what the hell's a lesbian? So, and then, of course, I was having a little bit of fantasies about these two people that I was supposed to stay away from. And it was in my senior year
Uh,
that I came across Marcia, and she was at a different school, a different high
mm,
school. And we had a summer, such an innocent time. In fact, we're still friends,
uh,
many 40 so years later. So,
uh-huh.
yeah, in fact, I just had a dream about Marcia. It was so sweet.
Oh, wow. How wonderful.
So Marcia and I were together in the summer, and it was just the sweetest thing. And I felt this unconditional love. And
Mhm.
then we went back into started our senior year. And I was an athlete. I played volleyball and basketball and softball, but it seemed that I was getting more of a cold shoulder from some of the players that were like in the same row, in the locker room, and
Mhm.
it felt weird, like
Hmm.
I was now being judged because this relationship, and
Uh,
that peer pressure, unfortunately, created such a thing inside of me that I ended the relationship, and I was brokenhearted, and she was brokenhearted, and I only wanted to be back with her, um, and didn't know how to go about that. So it was a hard time to have that experience,
mhm.
and that's why I'm so happy that Marcia and I are still friends and that we can talk once or twice a year and still connect.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
so sweet. And I actually wrote her a letter back in time, and I took it to her when I saw her in 2014 down in Florida. And it just said, I'm so sorry because you were such a love. And she appreciated it. And she said, I'll always love you too. And I'm like, ah.
No, how sweet. Now,
So
where did you grow up? Where was high school for you?
Ashtabula, Ohio, which
Okay.
is
Uh-huh.
about 1 hour east of Cleveland and right on the Lake Erie.
Oh, oh, but that's beautiful.
Yeah, I went to Harbor High, so we were right on the bank of the harbor. And hey, that was my party zone. I was I
Mhm.
was actually voted the biggest partier of my senior class. Mom
Oh,
was really impressed. Um,
that's great. Did your mom know?
there,
about
so
Marcia?
that's that we'll continue the story. So I had a couple
Okay.
other relationships, and
Mm-hmm.
what I when was it? I think, yeah, I had some relationships. I was only with women in any relationship or a partner who was my roommate, but we never talked about it. And it wasn't until I was 20, 27 or 28, and I had an opportunity to move to California. I'd been to California for 8 months when I was 21. And then
Mm-hmm.
that relationship, we moved back to Ohio, much to my chagrin, because I'm like, there's gay bars here and everything. And, it's California, it's Southern Cal, Orange County and such. So when I moved back there, and I was a professional forklift driver at that time, I know I have more stories. I would keep it to the point. And I started reading a book, and it was a Louise Hay book, and it was called You Can Heal Your Life. And actually, I had read Marianne Williamson and what was it? Shirley MacLaine books. And I didn't really know anybody except that I joined a softball team when I went by myself out to East LA, actually.
Uh-huh.
And when I was reading this book, there was something in how she wrote about affirming who we are. And I thought, it's stupid that I have relationships and I can't talk to my parents. And so I wrote my mom a letter, and it was 14 pages long, and it basically explained how each relationship developed and then fell apart. I wrote my dad about a page and a half letter, and they were divorced, and his was more like a business letter, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
knew I worked with my dad in the grocery store that he built in the 70s, so I knew him as a business person. So I came out to both of them. My dad called me and he said, "So did you think that something would change?" I said, "Well, you never know." And he had no issue with my being gay. I think my dad was actually a closet gay himself. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
just, just thinking that was a possibility. And then mom called and she goes, "So there's no more wall between us." And because
Uh-huh.
actually at age 10, I started building a wall between myself and adults. And I have a name for my 10-year-old self, and it's called Wolfie Girl, like
Mm-hmm.
wolf, the Wolfie Girl. And she was a tomboy. I was out there playing the games called Smear the Queer, had I only known. There was
Wow.
there was two girls who played with the boys, and we would, I'll jump on whoever had the hat or whatever we were throwing around. So, but I started building this wall, and I thought, you know what, adults are stupid. Just don't tell them that. And and I built this wall between my mom because she wasn't there for me in the emotional sense that I would have liked. And I
Mhm.
shut her out. And even if she had tried after that, no, I wasn't having any part of it. So, yeah, that's the parents part.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it happens, right? I mean, our psyche plays havoc or games with us sometimes, and we can be our own enemies, right? But we do what we feel like needs to be done at the time. I mean, it's right.
Yes, I would.
No shade.
I had a girl that I was very interested in, and we were starting to get together at age. I think we were 23, and I had a beach party, and this girl didn't show up, and so it was disturbing to me. And so I went to her house and knocked on her window, and her parents were gone, and that's why I couldn't figure out why she hadn't been there. So I came in and we snuggled together, and then I left. However, her parents came home and they got into my car because I think I left it unlocked, and they found a letter that Julie had sent to me. They
Mhm.
basically went off the handle on it. There was like, basically you need to not be that way. Now, through time, and I couldn't see her. I was basically dismissed altogether. And I was so upset with this experience. And
Yeah.
then her mom, I didn't have a lot of contact with her, but her mom finally came around and embraced whoever Julie was with. So, you know, but that was tough.
They went into your car, so
Yep.
they must have been suspicious of something
Yeah.
and went through your personal papers. That's pretty ballsy.
Well, they actually said to her that it was laying on the driveway. Now, I
Mm,
don't think that that was even it at all. And who's to say?
mm,
It doesn't matter. It was the reaction that's really
right.
the crux of how that shook out.
Yeah, that must have been very, I mean, can imagine how upsetting and that must have been for you at that time. Yeah. And so how old were you then when you wrote the letters to your parents to tell them that you were
I think it was 28.
okay? So a couple years, 5 years after that. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how did the rest of your how did the rest of your adulthood go from the time you came out to your parents? Then did it become a lighter experience, a more enjoyable experience for you, or
Well, when I moved to East LA, and that's when I was 28 and reading this book, East
Mhm.
LA, I didn't know anybody. Well, in Orange County, I was living in Whittier, California. And then there was a gay bar called it was called the Gasp. There was Happy Hour Gasp and the Huntress, and they called that Menopause Manor. But I went to the Gasp, and that's where I joined the softball team, and the Gasp stood for Gays Are Special People,
Oh,
um, and basically because I was still the party girl, and so I had a series of relationships, and of course you fall in love, and then it becomes, I don't know, things just don't work because I didn't get a good manual on how to have a good relationship, right?
mhm, mm.
And I was reading these books, these metaphysical books, and I was very curious. And so Marianne Williamson's book, The Return to Love, I was reading it and it was like, oh my God, I totally get this. And like my best friends were these authors of Shakti Gawan's creative visualization and various things. So I lent it to this gal that I was dating, and she had this mindset to call the number in the back because it says, from our information, call dot dot dot. And then she calls and says, Marianne Williamson is speaking at the Huntington Beach Church of Religious Science. And I'm like, what? And I went, and there was 1,000 people there, and Marianne was doing her thing. And I came back to this place. It was called the Huntington Beach Church of Religious Science. And they've changed their name. They're actually now all of the centers for, they're called the Centers for Spiritual Living, because the word
Mhm.
science made people think it was Christian Science or Scientology, and it was neither. Anyway, I started going to this church, and I find out that the minister had come out. She was very well known, very well loved, and I never heard her talk except I had a cassette. You remember those cassettes?
Yes,
I
I
ended up
do.
with a cassette that she was giving a talk, and she came out to this congregation of 1,000 people. Um, on a Sunday. And in that talk, she says, I never expected to fall in love with another woman, but I did.
Mhm,
And I thought that was super brave of her because you're in Orange County. You don't know how people are going to react. But
mhm.
she was definitely a role model. We had a gay and lesbian spiritual support group, which we had a ton of people. I actually started running it for a while. And I found my way, instead of being stoned, I wanted to get the same feeling of being stoned, basically, um,
Mhm,
without being stoned, without a substance.
mhm.
And so basically, I've when I did my journey on what spirit was, God, whatever that is, I came up to it's unconditional love,
Mm.
whatever that power is. And I also realized I didn't unconditionally love myself. So that became my mission, is to love Liz unconditionally, the good, the bad, the ugly, the pretty, because as much as I can love my shadow, I can love your shadow. And whatever I don't own owns me. That's a
Mm.
quote that I love
Mhm.
by Debbie Ford. So I had a 14-year relationship once I had started sobering up. And that I met the gal in the gay and lesbian spiritual support group.
Mhm.
So
Wow.
it was 14 years. And then we moved to Tahoe because I got a job as a minister. And then we became better friends than lovers, and she missed her kids back in Orange County, so she moved away, and we were in agreement. We actually had a conscious uncoupling ceremony at our church.
Oh, wow.
That
What was
It was
Yeah.
a conscious uncoupling ceremony. I had a minister student I found it in a book. It was the end of a relationship, and I read it and I thought, this is so beautiful. And Sandy agreed. So after a service in May of 2014, we completed our relationship as lovers, and we're now lifetime friends. And we thanked each other and we set each other free. But I'll tell you what, once she left, my person who'd been with me for 14 years was gone. And so,
Mm.
and then I've had a couple other relationships, and my last one lasted 6 years, and she passed away in December of 2022, which
Mhm.
she found out 2 weeks before that she had terminal cancer, and she had maybe 2 weeks to live, and that's about it. I was like, so
Wow.
I've been a little fucked up around that. I'm still dealing with depression, but
Mhm.
then I put my happy hat on.
I love that.
And, you know, it's kind of tough also being a minister. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm completely out. There's no doubt about it. I love who I am. I love to be the community. I love the trans community. I could have easily gone that route with my they-ness. I'm more masculine than feminine, which means buying clothes is tough. Just like
Right.
they don't have a
Mhm.
they don't have a they department.
No.
But
Maybe one day, but mhm.
but it's a little tough because I don't know if people avoid me because I'm a minister, but they don't know that I'm the minister different. I mean, there is a great lesbian and gay community here, but I go to events and it seems that I don't know, it's a weird feeling like
Mm.
they say hi, but I'm not really included. So I'm dealing with that interesting experience. And I just know
Interesting.
that I will have love in my life again. Right now, I have a little dog who's the love of my life. I'm the
Oh.
love of my life. And there will be a person at the right time. And I'm also working through that depression because I don't want to bring my depressed self into a relationship out of need. I would
Mhm.
love to have a person to share life with. But right now, I'm just to get used to being in the single mode. And I
Mhm.
think I'm getting more used to it. So I don't mind being
Okay.
alone. It's that lonely factor. Want to share
Right.
things with the person.
Right. Right. Yes, it can be a challenge. And for those listening on a podcast that cannot see Liz right now, she just put on a really cool looking rainbow pride hat. So it looks really spiffy.
Yeah, you
Looks
see,
great on you.
if you are at the Santa Fe Pride, what did they call it? The festival, whatever we call it,
Santa Fe Pride. Yeah.
Santa Fe
Hmm.
Pride. I will be
Hmm.
there wearing this, and
That
maybe
hat.
I'll be asked to be up on the stage to do a little prayer to open up you know. And I don't
Oh,
believe,
yeah.
it's our concept, my concept. We teach God is not judgmental. It's totally inclusive. It's all about love and acceptance. And we don't believe in sin. And
Mhm.
and I would say the only sin that there is when you can't be who you really are, you know,
Yes.
because
Right.
because
Mhm.
we're made unique, individualized expression of divine love.
Mhm.
So hate doesn't have room in there, and I think all hate is just fear that people have made up, and I think that also that fear means they're afraid of their own um, homosexual tendencies, and what you don't want to have in your life, you want to kill off. It's like
Right.
that's
Well,
bent out of shape.
I agree with you. I think fear is the driver of a lot of issues. And I wonder if people see Reverend and they get intimidated or fearful, to your point, right? Because they, I don't know, why would it? Because they feel like they should know more, or they don't want to know more, or something. I mean, who knows? But you're a very outgoing and charismatic individual. It can be really hard though to get beyond those boundaries
You
that we
get it?
feel.
Yeah. And what it is, I believe, is there's a preconceived idea of what I like. I don't even want to call unity of Santa Fe unity.
Mhm,
I don't want to call it a
mhm,
church, even though we have
mhm.
services that are similar. However, our philosophy and teaching and experience, and it's such a loving community, welcoming. People love to be there, and they come back, and we're just having a good time, to be honest. But there's preconceived ideas of what church is, and we call ourselves the community different because
Yes. Mhm.
we don't fall under that umbrella, even though it seems like we do. And that's what I think keeps people back because they don't know and they don't know what they don't know.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. So, so it sounds like um, life has become better, but yet there's still some challenges that you've gone through in the last several years, which I can't even imagine. First of all, 2 weeks notice for someone that you've had a relationship with, period, has got to have been devastating. And then shortly after that, I mean,
Yep.
yeah, that's
Life,
got to be
life,
a challenge.
life is full of challenges and
It
I
is.
and I got a counselor. Actually, I got three different counselors that summer following,
Mhm.
and I fired all three of them because
Um,
it was like after 4 or 5 weeks, I get that this isn't going to go anywhere, and so
yeah.
it's like you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, and finally, I found through a counseling group somebody who gets me, and
Mhm.
so I just feel so much better that I have somebody, because again, being a minister, who do I talk to? My congregants don't need to know my personal life and what's going
Mhm.
on because I'm also a role model. I'm their friend, and there's a certain boundary even with those people that I love and they love me. It's a very
Right.
interesting
Mhm.
journey, and I do love what I do. So I know it's just life.
What's the um, what's the community like there? Um, I know you've talked about it a bit, but in terms of, um, for instance, are all the people that go to the Unity Church, are they all queer, or do you have straight people that go as well?
Now we have mostly straight people. In fact, I
Mm-hmm.
was when listen to this one. I started doing my pronouns at the beginning of the service. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I always said, my name is Liz Luoma. I'm the minister here. My pronouns are she, her, they, them. And what I got later after a while was the people did not understand. They really don't understand pronouns. They think that saying your pronouns means that you're queer. And it's like, no, it does not mean that. It is a whole different issue. But again, these people do not know what they don't know. And I think that they need to have a Kevin Boehm come in and educate, because they don't understand the younger generation is all about recognizing gender and being comfortable with whatever gender is right for them. But the older population does not get it. And I don't even know that they're open to getting it. I mean,
Interesting.
they'd have to have really a class, and then they would go, oh, didn't know that. Because I was
Yeah.
actually, I guess somebody thought she's trying to make this a gay church. I'm like, if I was trying to make it a gay church, it would be a gay church. Okay. So
Don't go there.
we're all one, you love
Right,
who you
right,
love.
right.
Anyway, it was interesting. So I am not doing my pronouns when I am on this thing because people didn't get it and they were giving voice to their not getting it. And I'm like, well,
Mm,
I'm just going to be this. And I talk about my wife, and I talk
mm,
about
mhm.
I'm definitely openly gay and they love me. But that was very confusing to me that was an issue with some of these folks. But again, we have a demographic of men and women. We've got a couple gay guys. Um, it's mostly straight,
Mhm.
and we get
Mhm.
people in, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to cater more to the younger folks too. That's part of the reason I started doing that. And I had one person come in, and I was pretty sure, I mean, they were trans. And when they tried to slip out, I came up to them and talked to them for a minute. And they thanked me for saying the pronouns. They felt safe.
Mhm.
That somebody actually recognizes that.
Right. Yeah. It's an acknowledgement, right? Even though people may not understand that it is an acknowledgement to people that need to hear it.
Exactly. And we've had a few trans people come in, and they were part of the congregation. And I have a soft spot, probably the softest spot in my heart are for the trans community. And I
Mhm.
actually got to be in a drag king show once. And I had the beard and the mustache, and did a Billy Joel song, "Don't Stand So Close to Me." And
Oh, yeah.
that's when they were doing the drag shows over at Jean Cocteau. Um, and
Right.
yeah, so I love those shows. I can't attend all of them, and yet they have, of course, the drag bingo. And
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I think there's I love going too. It's fun, it's entertaining, it's um and it brings all kinds of people out, right? All kinds of people come out to watch the shows. So I think that's a wonderful way for people to express their art and express who they are.
yeah,
I really do.
I loved learning that New Mexico was, I was told, the safest state in the United States for the
Mhm.
LGBTQ plus community. And I had no
Yeah.
idea that there was such a large community when I moved here, but they have
Mhm.
various lesbian groups. And I just take one
Yeah.
day at a time and trust the universe is taking care of things. And a lot of prayers about what's happening in the world for the trans community. And I trust that something good will come out of this craziness.
Let's hope so, Liz. Right. Let's hope so. Thank you so much for sharing your life story. Is there anything you want to add? Any at all? Any bits of advice to anyone or anything that we hadn't touched upon?
Be yourself, be true to yourself. There's nothing worse, I think, than having to put on a mask or be something different. And if you ever need somebody to talk to, there's this minister, Rev Liz, over at Unity Santa Fe. She's also known as Reverend Yippee Doo. So, and if you want to find out what Reverend Yippee Doo is, you can come to a service at 10:30 on a Sunday. You can also come through the on our website, unitysantafe.org, and live
Mhm.
stream it. And you'll get to see and hear why it's Yippee-doo minister, but I'm not telling you about it.
I love that. Well, I hope everybody checks it out. I hope listeners check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time and what you're doing for the community, Pam.
Thank you. Thank
Yep.
you. And we need to keep our voices heard and try and create understanding as much as we can, particularly right now. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a fundraiser I just signed up for on Facebook, which is for the Trevor Project.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, because it's my birthday this month, so I figured, hey, send some money to the Trevor Project.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much. Thank you for doing that. Thank you, Liz, for being a guest and coming out and sharing your story on this podcast.
It was my pleasure. It was fun. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And if you are out there and have any kind of struggles in your community, you can reach out to us through our website, lipservice.media, and we will find you a source. We'll find you some help in your area. So thanks so much again for listening. Please share and subscribe.